A 17-year-old named Austin Metcalf walked into a rival team's tent during a rainstorm at a high school track meet and did something completely ordinary. He told a stranger to leave. That is all he did. He was not starting a fight. He was not being aggressive. He was keeping order so his teammates had shelter from the rain. The kind of thing a responsible kid does at a school event without thinking twice about it. He never came home. Now Karmelo Anthony's parents are sitting down on national platforms, the Breakfast Club, CBS News, and they are telling the world that the witnesses who testified under oath have the story completely wrong. They are saying their son was the one being hunted. They are saying the jury missed the bigger picture. And people are listening. People are debating. And some people are starting to believe them. But here is what nobody covering this parents' media tour has stopped to examine. Before Austin Metcalf ever touched Karmelo Anthony, before any physical contact was made, Karmelo looked at him and said 6 words. 6 words that are sitting right there in the trial record. 6 words that every outlet reporting on this story has walked directly past without stopping. Touch me and see what happens. You do not say that unless you already know what is going to happen. You do not issue that warning unless something in your pocket has already made the decision for you. So the question this case has never properly answered is this. What did Karmelo Anthony have in his hand before Austin moved? And did anyone in that tent see it before the grab? 12 witnesses testified under oath in that courtroom. 12 people stood feet away from a 17-year-old boy and watched what happened and sat in a quiet room and described it in detail. And not one outlet, not one video, not one article covering this parent's appeal has named a single one of them. Not one voice, not one account, just a number. We are going to change that today. We are going through the exact trial record, the witness sequence, and the one detail that the parents' entire media argument cannot get past. Those 6 words spoken before Austin ever moved. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the jury decided what they decided, why the parents' argument is more complicated than the television interviews make it sound, and what a successful appeal would actually mean for everyone involved in this case. Because Austin Metcalf was not in a fight. He was doing his job as a teammate. He walked into something that was already decided before he took a single step. And that truth is sitting right there in the record, if you are willing to look directly at it. Let's get into it. Outside that tent, the rain was still coming down. The track meet was still happening. Nobody on the field knew yet. Inside, everything had already changed. Here is what the trial record actually shows. Not what the parents said on television. Not what social media decided. What the witnesses said under oath. What the medical examiner confirmed. And what the court accepted as fact. Start with the environment. A canvas athletic tent at a high school track meet is not a large structure. It fits a team, their gear, and not much else. When students from 2 rival schools pack into one to escape a sudden downpour, there is no space that is not occupied. Every person in that tent was within feet of what happened. There was nowhere to stand that was not a witness stand. According to sworn testimony, Karmelo Anthony was in that tent when Austin Metcalf approached him and told him to leave. Simple request. 10 words, maybe less. What happened next is in the record. Before Austin touched him, before any physical contact was made, Karmelo Anthony looked at him and said 6 words. Touch me and see what happens. That phrase is in the trial record. It was testified to by multiple witnesses under oath. And here is what I need you to sit with for a second. You do not say, touch me and see what happens, as a startled reaction. You say it as a warning. A warning requires something to back it up. Austin Metcalf then made physical contact. He grabbed Karmelo to remove him from the tent. And in that moment, the moment of the grab, Karmelo Anthony produced a folding pocket knife and delivered a single stab wound to Austin's chest. And this is where I need you to slow down with me. Because the Collin County medical examiner's findings are not just a cause of death. They are a behavioral statement. in a crowded tent surrounded by rival athletes during a rainstorm with adrenaline at its peak. One wound. One. Not the wound pattern of someone who panicked. The wound pattern of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. More than 12 witnesses testified to this sequence. 12 people inside that tent, feet away, watching. And the defense team, when it was their turn, did not cross-examine a single witness to dispute what happened. Not the warning, not the grab, not the knife. They accepted every fact and argued only the frame around it. When a defense team does that, it tells you something about the facts. Now Karmelo's parents are on national television saying those witnesses have the story completely wrong. They are pointing to one person, one adult, a teacher. But what that teacher actually said under oath and what the parents are claiming it says are not the same thing. That is next. The teacher's name comes up in every interview Kayla Hayes and Andrew Anthony have given. Every single one. He is the foundation of their public argument, and his testimony is real. It is in the record. But here is what the record actually shows. The teacher did not witness the stabbing. He witnessed the aftermath. By the time he saw Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf was already on the ground. The teacher did not stop a fight. He arrived at a scene. Those are two different things. And the trial record treats them as two different things. So let us go through what the record does show. In sequence. Because sequence is everything in this case. 1. Karmelo Anthony was told to leave the tent. He did not leave. He stayed and issued a verbal warning before any physical contact occurred. That is worth noting. 2. The defense team did not challenge a single witness's account of what happened. They accepted the facts entirely and argued only the emotional frame around them. That is harder to explain. 3. The parents' entire appellate argument rests on the teacher's testimony, but the teacher's testimony covers the aftermath. What happened inside that tent before the teacher saw anything is exactly what 12 student witnesses testified to in detail. That is difficult to dismiss. Now, here is the detail that every outlet covering this parents' media tour has walked past without stopping. The teacher testified that he had to physically restrain a student who was pursuing Karmelo after the stabbing. The parents present this as proof their son was being hunted, but the pursuit happened after Austin was already on the ground. Karmelo was not running from a threat. He was running from what he had just done. Those are not the same thing. 4. Touch me and see what happens, was said before Austin grabbed him. Not during, not after, before. A verbal threat issued before any physical provocation means the warning preceded the justification. You cannot claim you were reacting to something that had not happened yet. That detail should not matter. But it does. Because Austin Metcalf was not protecting himself when he walked toward Karmelo Anthony. He was protecting his teammates. He was doing the thing good team members do without being asked. He walked over to solve a minor problem. He did not know he was walking into the answer to a different one. 5. What the record does not tell us with precision is exactly when that knife went from closed to open. That single half second or before the grab or during it is the one detail that could have changed everything about how the jury weighed intent. That question is genuinely unsettled, and it matters, because the answer lives somewhere in that tent with 12 people who were standing close enough to know. Here is what I want you to think about. The defense accepted the sequence. Not a word of cross-examination to dispute the facts. When you hold that next to touch me and see what happens. When you put those two things side by side and look at them together, the trial might be over. The sentence is handed down. The jury made their decision. The record is sealed. But there is one voice in this case that never got a fair examination. Not in the media coverage, not in the parents' interviews, not in any video covering this story. And it is not a witness. It is not an expert. It is 6 words spoken to a 17-year-old boy in a rainstorm, 30 seconds before he died. Drop your thoughts below on this. I genuinely want to know. If the defense accepted the entire sequence of events and only argued the frame, does that change how you see the parents' media campaign right now? Because it changes something for me. But before we get to what those 6 words mean legally, there is something they mean personally. Something about Austin Metcalf that this entire case has moved too fast to stop and say out loud. Austin Metcalf was 17 years old, and he was at a track meet. Not because something went wrong that day, because that was his life. Practice, competition, teammates, the ordinary rhythm of a high school athlete on a normal afternoon. He was not in the wrong place. He was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was supposed to do. When the rain started, he made sure his team had shelter. That was the last decision Austin Metcalf ever made. Austin had spent that entire afternoon doing what athletes do, competing, focused, pointed towards something. And when the rain stopped that, he did the next right thing, the way athletes do. Karmelo Anthony was 19 years old. The public record does not establish a significant prior criminal history. He was a student athlete at a competing school at the same track meet, living the same kind of ordinary afternoon. What the record cannot tell us is when he decided that a folding pocket knife was something he needed at a high school track meet. That question matters. Because the knife was not found at the scene. It was not borrowed. It was not produced from the environment. Karmelo Anthony made the decision to carry a folding pocket knife to a school athletic event before he arrived. That decision was made before any confrontation, before any rain, before Austin Metcalf said a single word to him. That canvas tent was not large. Every person inside was within feet of everyone else. 12 witnesses stood in that space and testified to the same sequence. Texas Penal Code Section 9.32, deadly force in defense of person, requires that a person reasonably believe deadly force is immediately necessary to protect against another's use of deadly force. An unarmed grab to remove someone from a tent is not deadly force under any reading of that statute. The law is specific. The grab does not meet the threshold. Here is the part nobody on those television panels is saying out loud. If the appeal succeeds, if a court orders a retrial, Texas law does not bind the prosecution to the original sentence. A retrial on this case carries a potential sentence of up to 99 years, or life. The parents are conducting a national media campaign without telling their audience that a successful appeal could mean their son never comes home at all. If this case matters to you, if Austin Metcalf's name deserves more than a social media debate, subscribe to Casebreak Network right now. We follow every development as this appeal process moves forward. Breaking cases. Following every lead. Hit subscribe so you are there when this breaks. The trial is over. The sentence is handed down. But there is one question left that has not been examined. 6 words, spoken before any of this happened. And what those 6 words mean is the only thing left that matters. Somewhere in a results file from that afternoon, Austin Metcalf's name is still listed as a competitor. The track meet did not stop. The races were completed. The times were recorded. Life moved forward at the same event where a 17-year-old boy took his last breath. Somewhere in a record book, Austin Metcalf's name is still listed as a competitor from that afternoon. Karmelo Anthony is 19 years old, and he will carry the seconds inside that tent for the next 35 years. Whatever the truth is about what he felt when he reached into his pocket, he will live with that, and that is not nothing, regardless of what you believe about the verdict. But here is what the record gives us. The request Austin Metcalf made, the one that cost him everything for the crime of being a responsible teammate, may be the detail that defines what justice means in this case. Because "touch me and see what happens" was spoken before Austin moved. It is in the record. 12 people testified to it. No appellate argument can walk it back. That sentence belongs to Austin Metcalf now. It is the last thing that proves he did nothing wrong. Austin is walking back across the track. The rain has stopped. His gear bag is over one shoulder. Someone says something and he laughs. He does not know what the afternoon was yet. He is already past it. Already on the bus home. He never made it back across the track. If Austin Metcalf's name should be remembered as more than a case number, share this video. Subscribe to Case Break Network. Breaking cases. Following every lead. Before you go, those 6 words. Touch me and see what happens. If you are a parent, a coach, a teacher, what do those words tell you? Drop it below. Austin Metcalf asked a stranger to leave a tent in the rain, and that is the most ordinary thing a person can do. And he was 17 years old, and he never went home.